Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Tuesday. We are back to discuss episode 7, the finale of season 1, and the beginning of season 2 of Breaking Bad. Two really compelling episodes for me. They really get into a lot of good character development, a lot of Walter's alter ego, which we will uncover, and there's a lot of interesting storylines that we'll dive into tonight. But Shay, before we get going on Breaking Bad, your Leafs will drop the puck in just about 48 hours. How are you feeling heading into game 1?
I'd say I'm confident, but also cautious because it's going to be a good battle. But I think the predictions and everything are in the Leafs' favor. But I think we get some losing to Columbus that you got to be wary of any team that's got some good D. And fortunately, Montreal's got some. Even though they're maybe not the fastest or the most skilled, they're certainly talented. I think Joel Edmondson's so underrated. I'll say it this year. He's had a fantastic year just being that defensive defenseman back there. So I think he's a wary guy, and he'll be rough and tough during the playoffs like he was in St. Louis on that run. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm confident. I think Matthews and Marner will bring us to the promised land. Get us out of the first round anyways, and we'll see Edmonton in the second round.
What's your prediction? How many games?
I would be surprised if it went 6 games. I think Montreal will put the clamps on Matthews for a couple of those games, and it'll be really close. That's my prediction right now. And then goaltending, we'll see how little Jackie Boy does if he gets the pipes. But I'm not certain that he's going to be the main guy anyways. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll track it throughout the podcast. I believe next Tuesday it'll be game 4. So we'll see what the series is at this point next week. And
what about you? Yeah, I'm sure you already said it on the pod.
I had Leafs in 6 as well.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah,
I had Leafs in 6. So clearly they're the heavy favorite, and if they don't win this series, they should
blow it up,
reconsider, because if they don't make the conference final, I believe it's a failed season for the Toronto.
I fully believe so too. Yeah, they have to win more than one round because of it's like they've been accumulating for a while that they've needed to win one and then one right after. So yeah, I believe the same thing.
Yeah. So we'll wish best of luck to Toronto and Montreal as they start their series on Thursday. We'll see how that plays out. But I mentioned we're talking about episode 7 tonight, a no rough stuff style deal, and season 2, episode 1. What'd you make of these 2 episodes as a whole?
Good, really good. Yeah, I love the way that season 1 ties up. Really goes out into bang, which we'll get to at the end of the 7th season. And it feels so quick that everything happened, but so much happened within the season that it's unbelievable to take it all in. But you're right, there's a lot of good character development. Love the way that that first episode the first episode we'll talk about starts with Walter getting a little frisky. And yeah, you're right. It's this new alter ego that he kind of created just by being who he is now. Really gets underway, and I think it's good. It's good for TV because it's clearly I'd say maybe not one of the most likable, but one of the most defiant roles probably played in the last, I don't know, half decade. You could say decade probably.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I mean, Walter White. I mean, there's Tony Soprano. Walter White. There's not. I think maybe like Kramer is one. Maybe George Costanza. Like Seinfeld was a big show that comes to mind, but some people might say Friends. I would not be one of those people.
Not a big Jennifer Aniston girl.
I love her to death now. I just hated that show. I made it through one season, and then I never
watched it. I don't think I ever will. I don't find it entertaining. I don't find it.
Yeah, I don't find it funny because I like comedies that have jokes. That's one of my requirements, and failed in that basic criteria. So, but yeah, you mentioned this episode starts with Walter. They're at a PTA meeting, basically. They're talking about Hugo being arrested, and a bunch of parents are like, how the hell did you hire this guy? And the principal's kind of defending herself, and it's this boring meeting anyway. And Walter just starts putting his arm on Skylar's leg and starts kind of giving her a rub down, and his hand starts sliding into home plate, and they're kind of under the table fooling around. Then it's this funny scene where you hear it all the time in movies where somebody speaks out, Walt, Walt, and he goes, what? And she goes, can you tell us what's missing? And it was a pretty funny scene.
Oh yeah, it's good. And it's kind of brings light that, he's not getting away with everything that he might be thought he would get away with just because he runs. They said he was the head of the chemistry department there. But clearly they're on to him, at least in the fact that he has stolen the equipment, and it seemed like he was going to get away with it originally when Hugo's arrested, but Hugo's doesn't have anything, I guess, meth related in his place, so they're still on the looks for that. So we'll see. I think I can't remember how that kind of ties out, whether he puts the blame on somebody else, which he usually does, but we'll see how that goes. It's still kind of a loose end even at the end of this episode.
Yeah, no, exactly. So they go through that. They end up getting through the meeting, then having sex in the Aztec, which was, it's so out of character for Walter, but I think we're starting to see the Heisenberg type, having cancer, saying kind of fuck you to the world and not being afraid of anything. He starts to show this more and more throughout the series, and this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg right now.
Yeah, exactly. Even after it's done, she's like, where did that come from? Like, because it's totally out of character, like you said. And he's just like, well, it's better because it's illegal. So we're seeing this new side where illegal is fun to him, and it's a little bit more dangerous. And quite frankly, I think that's everybody's kind of mindset when it comes to it. Like, maybe not for everybody, but when something is illegal, people tend to, I guess, go towards that way because it's more attractive and it's kind of naughty, I guess. And if you want to put that terms.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, when you have a risk or you're doing something that's outside the norm, I mean, you definitely feel that way. You think of not wearing a seatbelt or speeding, or those are just two examples that a person like me would never do. But
Oh yeah.
but some people might. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we then pivot to a realtor showing Jesse's house, and we see this camera angle show a for sale sign on the lawn, and Walt just kind of shows up, and he's like, "What the hell?" And we learn that Jesse's living in the RV.
Yeah. So Jesse, clearly they're trying to get rid of this house. Walter walks into the RV, says, why are you selling your house? Jesse goes, well, I got 2 dead guys plugged up in my toilet. I gotta get rid of this thing. It's probably already haunted. And kind of a funny scene. If just as a recap, Jesse was banged up pretty bad in the last episode by Tuco Salamanca, I think his name is. So, did I say that right?
Yeah. You did. Very good.
And he's still pretty banged up. You could see that his ribs are clearly feel like they probably caved in. He's sleeping on this old greasy mattress out in the RV. But yeah, he's trying to get rid of this place as the time being, which catches them in a little bit of heat later on in this episode. But we'll get to that in a bit. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting because obviously that house is such a big fixture on the show going forward, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wouldn't want to live there. Just the thought of it alone is pretty disturbing. So I understand where he's coming from. And then we see, he kind of asks Walt, so you came to your senses and didn't go see Tuco, right? And he says, no, I went. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah. And he throws him a bag of cash. And he said, they made 70 grand for 2 pounds every week. And Jesse, I think, makes himself close to $50,000 for the 35,000 and 15,000 for earning it, for taking a beating for him and Walt.
Yeah, it's pain and suffering. And right away, I think Walter was looking for a better reaction, but Jesse's like, we can't make 2 pounds because of soda, and that's one of the key ingredients in methamphetamine. So, that's Jesse's like, I don't have enough Smurfs, he calls them, which are basically people who would just go to the drugstore, get like cough syrup and stuff like that, stuff that soda is in, And he's like, I don't have enough Smurfs in the world to get that much, meth. So I don't know how you plan on pulling this off.
Yeah. So there, yeah, exactly. So he's worried because he's like, we're dealing with Tuco. He just beat the shit out of me, and we're gonna, not be able to provide the product. So they go to the junkyard. I love this scene where it's just Jesse and Walter. When they're just together, it's great. Walter's added a fedora to his look, and Jesse says, why the hell are we meeting out here in the junkyard, middle of nowhere? And he goes, why? It's private, And he goes, why couldn't we meet at the mall? Like, is the Walmart closed? Like a public meeting place? Like it's so true because Tuco could kill them so easily out there without anybody knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little dumb, and you even said like, oh, it's all of a current like. Would you watch a criminal movie to see this? So clearly Walter doesn't have much experience on this side, which is always comical, really, because obviously he's a very smart guy. He's very wisdom, but he doesn't have these street skills like Jesse does, and that's why Jesse's needed throughout the show, and more importantly, needed to Walter through most of it.
Yeah, exactly. So they show up and they only give Tuco half a pound, and he's kind of like, Heisenberg, I thought you were a businessman. Like, you give me half a pound, that's not worth my time to come out here. And Walter still has this Heisenberg look, and he says, yeah, I want to get paid in full. And he says, Tuco's like, what? What'd you just say? He said, no, I want to be paid in full. And, so Tuco does. He says, it's like interest, gives him $52,000. Doesn't give him the full 70. He says, you'll get the other 18 when I get my meth. And of course, he's leaving, and he says, okay, see you next Friday. And Walter throws out, could you handle 4? And Jesse's like looking at him like he's a crazy person. And they agree next Friday they're going to have 4 pounds of meth, and they have no plan at this point of how they're going to make it.
Yeah, don't you find this happens a lot throughout the show, Juggy? Is him just kind of going off a limb and then kind of fixing these problems as like after he's already stated the fact? Isn't that like kind of a theme for him throughout the show?
Absolutely. I mean, as we go along, we'll talk about, Gustavo Fring and, his with him and with Mike, even with Saul. He does things thinking, okay, I'll figure it out later. But oftentimes they're very difficult. I mean, we see what they have to do in this episode in order to get that meth.
Exactly.
And he often doesn't care about Jesse in that scenario where we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. If Jesse has to come help me rob a bank, well, he'll do it because he's just my little minion and he'll do what I say.
Yeah. And it's before this too, when they were at the place, Jesse was ready to call it in. He was like, I'm going to sell this place. So I'm going to move away. This Tuco guy's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting up with this. But, Walter just kind of puts on this like fairy dust to Jesse, like, oh, I believe in you. You gotta, you have to have confidence. You can't just be fearful your whole life. And, he's really built him up. But of course, it's in the self-interest of Walt because he knows he kind of needs Jesse to cook and be his little, like you said, be his little minion.
Yeah. And it's what makes you feel so bad for Jesse because he's so desperately looking for not even a father, just a person that could honestly give him some advice that they actually mean. His parents constantly put him down. Walter, who he looks up to in so many ways because he's a family guy and he's got children and he's successful as a teacher, whatever. And he treats him like he's an idiot. And I think subliminally, Jesse knows that Walter's doing it, but he has no other option, no other people to turn to. So he just accepts Walter's bad advice and his, bad treatment of him.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. So essentially from there, they've left there. You see them at Jesse's house and they're kind of like, what kind of plan do you have? Like, we have no way of getting this Soto. The Smurfs aren't coming anytime soon. What are we going to do? And essentially Walter's like, well, we're going to replace Soto with something else. And, this is, if you've ever watched the show, this is the main reason why, of course, their meth is blue because of this new ingredient. And I don't know the actual chemicals. You might have it written
Yeah,
down.
it's called methylamine, and it sounds similar to meth, obviously, but it's not. I looked it up. It's not like a meth, element, so to speak. It is like it like you said, it replaces the Sudafed, the cold medicine type thing that puts it all together. But what it does basically is it cooks, like it basically acts as a furnace, because they buy a furnace and they can put it under extreme heat, the glass, and the methylamine is this blue dye basically that comes in the form, and after the extreme heat, the blue will stick onto the glass, and it keeps that's what makes their product blue, and what makes
Okay.
it so distinguishable throughout the whole series, because that's, like you said, we will see as we move on, it's known as the blue meth. Like that's the signature, and that's Walter's ingredient.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And at this point, they have almost everything they need except for this methylamine.
Methylamine, yeah.
Methylamine. But before we turn on how they get it, or that they hold for Esmeralda.
Yeah, yeah, and I also love when Walter explains what they're gonna do, and Jesse just
Oh yes, 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 yes. Famous
yeah,
line.
science.
Yeah,
Yes, Mr.
science,
White.
man.
Yeah, science. He just has these little one. I love them when he's like, "Yeah, bitch," or "Yeah, science," like that. That was, but
Yeah,
yeah, we'll pivot into it's the baby shower for Esmeralda, which is it's a tough name.
Yeah.
For a little baby, but we see it's at Walter and Skylar's house. They got a pretty good crowd on. I believe Marie has got the camera going. She's getting people to talk to the baby. Walter Jr. throws in a little line like, "I'll be a good big brother." Skylar, see you soon. Walter has this really nice line where he says, "Me and your mother will always be there for you. We're proud of you." And
Kind of sad though, eh? Right? Like,
it's kind of sad because it sounds like he's not going to be there.
yeah, he's saying like he's basically saying things towards the line like, oh, like no matter whatever happens, like I love you, like probably thinking that maybe he will maybe get caught in some point in the future, or he won't be there, like you said. And it's just a super sad kind of moment where I think everyone's like, everyone there knows he has cancer, and everyone knows probably his limit, his time is, he's got a limited time if he's lucky.
Yeah.
So he kind of says his line, and then it's like, well, he's basically saying that in terms maybe he won't be there, or maybe she will be born, but she probably won't be old enough to remember him. Let's be honest.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. And Marie is clearly loaded. She's wasted. Everybody's having a good time, but they're opening up baby gifts, and I've never been to a baby shower, thank God, because it seemed painful to open up every gift and look at it and pretend like you care. But Marie is so excited for Skylar to open up her gift, which, of course, and you think maybe it's a diaper, maybe it's a stroller, something practical, right? No, it's a gold tiara. And Skylar instantly hates the gift. You can tell. She goes like, "What? Why? Why did Marie buy me this? Like, it's so expensive. Like, it's not practical. You couldn't have got me like a bonnet." And she's kind of peeved from the get-go.
Yeah, and just so you know, Juggy, what is a tiara? 'Cause some people maybe do not know.
Tiara is basically like a crown that you see the king's got the crown. The queen will wear a tiara, or princess will wear a tiara in the fairy tale. So it's basically signifying that you're kind of like a royalty, or you're kind of an elite kind of.
Which makes no sense for this baby.
Tiara has always been kind of an uppity thing to me. I don't know if that maybe that's a bad take, but I've always kind of found if somebody wore a tiara, they thought they were better than you.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't match the.
Oh, may have lost Shay here. But if he can come back on, I'll keep going on here. So I think he was talking about the tiara being, a symbol of kind of an uppity attitude and always being a little problematic for sure. And, Skylar has this theory from the get-go that she believes that Marie is shoplifting. So she kind of has that in the back of her mind, and she goes, okay, what are we going to do with that? But throughout this, we see Hank and Walter are talking, and Hank says to Walter, hey, can we go talk? And so Hank and Walter go outside and they start chatting. And Hank has a bunch of Cuban cigars, and he offers Walter one. And he goes like, "Oh shit, you have lung cancer. Like, what am I doing here?" And Walter goes, "Well, Hank, um, you know, you know, sorry, you got they're illegal or whatever, but I already got lung cancer. Like, you can't do any worse to me." So they start smoking the Cuban. And there's this interesting dialogue where Walter says, it's really funny how people draw the line. And Hank's he goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, these are illegal, yet it's okay. People drink alcohol, but that's okay. One joint, where's the line gonna be? The moral code gonna be in 10 years. And Hank, obviously, he's a cop. He works for the DEA. And he goes, well, meth used to be legal, and all these people are doing it. And it's this interesting line because Hank immediately goes to methamphetamine, and Walter obviously is cooking it. And it's this cool juxtaposition where we see the two of them kind of talk about their barrier. And Walter, Shamus mentioned it earlier in the podcast, how doing something illegal is more fun. And I think this is Walter kind of giving Hank a little dig, saying, doing illegal stuff is fun. And, Hank just, bypasses it, doesn't even take it for what it is. And it's an interesting scene for sure. Yeah, so they go through that. It's a whole dilemma. We're going to bring Seamus back in here. We're just talking about the scene where Hank and Walter are smoking a Cuban and talk about the moral code. Where's the line when it comes to illegal activity? And I found it so funny how Hank goes to meth and Walter's obviously cooking it. And I just found that scene really interesting because it's kind of like Walter giving an olive branch to Hank saying, I'm doing illegal crap, but Hank doesn't pick up on it.
Yeah, he does this a lot to Hank, or not maybe a lot, but once in a while, I would say, where he kind of waves this in front of Hank very, like, almost under his nose per se.
Yeah.
I think about often the scene where I don't know why they may be moving. I think maybe something happens in their house and he's got all the money in a bag. And Walter, and we'll get to that. I think it's this season. And Hank goes to grab it. Walter's like, no, don't grab it. That's okay. He's like, oh, what do you have in here? Then Walter just looks at him and goes, $1 million. And Hank just kind of laughs it off. But like, clearly it's a shot, and it's kind of Walter's ego kind of saying, like, catch me if you can.
Yeah. And also, I don't think Walter thinks Hank's that smart.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Hank has this confident bravado about him, and Walter's the polar opposite. So I think they kind of clash because they're so different.
Yeah, no, oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right in that sense, where Hank is kind of the you're right. He's a cocky guy. And
yeah,
this I think maybe not this episode, but the episode we'll talk about next, it's kind of the real time that we see Hank more vulnerable, talking about Marie and what's going on with her, but we'll get to that in a little bit later. So
right.
Are we back to I think they're cooking now, I think.
Yeah, so Walter, they went to see the doctor, and he referenced alternative medicine, and Walter's hated it, of course, but he needs an excuse to go cook. And he says, I found this sweat lodge up in the valley. And he goes, but if you don't want me to go, I won't go. She goes, well, of course I want you to go. And he uses it, such a great lie. And he's going to go for the weekend. And it's at this point that Skylar says to him, I kind of think Marie might be shoplifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you touched on it or not, but Skylar does go to return the tiara because it's a ridiculous gift and can use money on so many better things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she gets there and she gets in a feud with this jewelry thing. It's like this was stolen. Like if hello.
Oh, yeah. We're just having some internet issues tonight, but we're going to battle through it. Uh, yeah, so she goes to return the tiara and he, she's like, yeah, I'd like to return this. I don't have a receipt. That's a bad sign from the get-go because you're not gonna be able to return that in 99.9% of establishments. But so he says, oh yeah, I'm not surprised you don't have a receipt, but don't go anywhere. I'm gonna go call the cops. And she goes like, what the hell? This is a gift. And he goes, I don't care if it was a gift. Like, you stole this from here, you're being arrested. And she's sitting in the office and he's like, do you know who gave this to you? She goes, no, I don't have to tell you anything. And we see Skylar go into a big guilt trip to avoid the police showing up and interrogating her.
Yeah, she uses her pregnancy essentially just to kind of get out of this, which made me think about how many pregnant women maybe do this just to kind of maybe slide. I don't know. I never thought about it until then, but I mean they could, because I mean no one's gonna mess with a pregnant woman. Let's just be honest.
No.
And yeah, she just basically says like, I think I'm going into labor. Like I'm gonna have my baby, and they basically just look at each other like, okay, like we gotta let this woman go. But obviously Skylar's pissed. I mean,
Yeah.
what else would you be after almost getting arrested for something that you did not do?
Yeah, she was embarrassed and, like you say, almost getting arrested for returning a gift at a baby shower. And it was like a very expensive tiara for that, and she gets out of there. She leaves Marie a message, and we'll get back to them in a minute. But so Walter's free for the weekend. He's in the clear, and they need to steal this methylamine, but they don't really know how to do it. But Jesse finds out that there's this plant that carries, big barrels of it. And they say, well, yeah, but it's guarded. How are we going to get in? There's a huge lock. And Walt, using his chemistry, says, well, we're going to use this element called thermite. And basically what thermite is, it's like it's like creating this, I don't know how to explain it. It basically cuts through metal. Like, it's like a fire. It goes
I think it's so.
Go on.
I think it's I was just gonna say I think it's so hot that when you apply it to the right thing, and when you light it on fire, like it'll mold through anything. And he goes in this great explanation about how they used it in the World War to get through this big German armored tank that was indestructible. But they said if you just have a little bit of this, a small baggie, it'll pretty much get you through anything. So
Right.
you see them go on this departure and
yeah,
they do a little digging.
I love this scene. So they show up at this compound. It's at night. They're waiting for the security officer to go by his checkpoint, and Walter buys basically snow caps, not ski caps, like with a mask or anything. He buys a snow cap and he cuts holes in the eyes and the mouth. And Jesse's like, "What the hell is this?" And he goes, "That's all they had." Jesse goes, "Well, you go to another store," and they bicker about that. But they get inside, and the security guard is having some bathroom problems. So he goes in a porta potty, and what do they do to this poor guy?
Well, this is off the jump. I forgot about this scene completely, but I laughed after I saw it. Jesse has the bright idea. Well, we're gonna lock this guy in here. So Buddy's, doing his business. He's got his fishing magazine open.
Yeah.
And they wrap it around with wire so that he's basically stuck in there. He can't get out. And it's also the plan is so loud that I don't think you would be able to hear anyone around you, like if they were doing that.
Right.
And so they do that, which end up being a really smart move
Mhm.
considering what happens in the following.
Yeah. So this poor bastard is locked in a porta potty, which is one of the more scary
Never
things
good.
I think could ever happen to you, to be stuck in there. But so he's locked in the porta potty. They get the thermite. It they take it. It does break through the lock, and this alarm starts blaring. And they're like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?" Well, Jesse opens up the garage door, and it's this massive jug. Like there's a lot
The
of damn
barrel, yeah.
the barrel of methylamine, and
Mm,
you could roll it, but they
yeah.
don't. They're both decently smart guys, and they carry this massive barrel out of the compound, which is just funny itself because you see them like kneeling down carrying it because it's so heavy, and they're going past the porta potty with the guy trying to stick his hand out trying to escape, which I thought was brilliant TV.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, they're going so slow because you
Yeah.
can just imagine two people carrying a full barrel, and obviously, Buddy, you could see the porta potty in the background just shaking around, and Buddy's just trying to, of course, get out. But yeah, no, you're right. And when you think of high getaway scenes, this is definitely not the place for it because that was, but like you said, it was great TV to watch, and super super funny, which I love what the show does. Brings maybe serious or supposed to be thrilling moments to a halt and just kind of makes them humorous instead.
Right. So there's that scene. We'll go before we get back to the cooking and everything that happens there, because that's some really interesting stuff. Skylar actually goes to the store where Marie's at, kind of
Mm.
blitzes her and says, like, I know you're shoplifting. Like, I almost got arrested because of your shoplifting. And Marie lies straight to her face and says, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. She was about to shoplift in this store until Skylar showed up. And it's it's this relationship festers a lot throughout the show, and I don't know if it ever gets back to where it was even for the first 6 episodes after these couple episodes where Marie just lies.
Yeah, no, and might as well get out of the way. She's a compulsive liar.
Yes.
If anything, she lies throughout the entire show multiple times. But this is not the first time that we've seen her shoplift either, because if you remember one of the first two episodes
She steals
when
the shoes.
she steals these high heels, and I mean, you're thinking, well, okay, well, whatever, maybe she's just having a bad day or something. She just decided to do something crazy. But no, like it's obviously been a trend for a while, and now she's gotten caught by a family member, and this is kind of, instead of maybe festering up to what she did, she's just going to deny because she doesn't want to accept the fact of the consequences per se.
Right. And it's not like she's stealing, pencils. She's stealing
No.
the high heels. She's stealing a tiara. These are expensive items. So she clearly has a sweet tooth when it comes to items.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, bargain bin DVDs that me and you would still buy to this
Oh
day.
yeah,
The Walmart
100%.
4 for 10 or whatever the deal is. She's not going there.
Yeah.
So they got the methylamine. They're in the RV ready to go. They're gonna go cook. And the RV will not start. It's on the fritz. It starts to smoke, and they're like, well, what the hell? And Jesse's like, we're not cooking in my damn front yard. So where do they go? The basement. And they set up basically the new lab in the basement, and they get everything down there. They're cooking, and before they start, Walter says, call that real estate woman just to make sure there's no viewings today. And he calls, and her phone's in the car while she's setting up kind of the stereotypical like nice ribbon and stuff to signal an open house. And Jesse and Walter do not know that there's about to be an open house while they're cooking meth in the basement of Jesse's home.
Yeah, another scene I totally forgot when I went up from when I watched the first time, and then it's just hilarious. All these people are just kind of scrimmaging them upstairs, and of course these two are freaking out because they're clearly doing something very illegal downstairs, and Walter just says, like, Jesse, like, go man the door, and make sure no one gets down here. And sure enough, of course, people are going to knock, people are going to get interested in what's going on. And a common theme throughout this open house is how bad it smells, because you got to think that these fumes are just killing, like going right up through the ventilation system, right, Juggy?
Yeah. So there's this woman in the kitchen. She's just like, and she does it for 3 or 4 times, and then you see the woman start spraying Febreze. And there's this guy, and he tries to open the basement door. Jesse goes, "You can't see the basement." He goes, "I just want to take a look." And he goes, "Get out of here. You're not seeing the basement, bitch." And he kicks everybody out of his house. And again, he listens to Walter, as Walter says, "Do not let anybody into this basement. By no means necessary. Get them out of here." And to his credit, they kick everybody out, and they make over 4 pounds of meth in the basement in this one cook.
Yeah, Walter had it calculated to a T, which obviously there's times where he's just calculating things in his head, and you can see that he's just kind of smart because he's just snipping away at these things. And he knew right away when he had the methylamine that he was going to make 4.5 pounds of meth. And he said, well, that'll cover what we owe Tuco plus the 4 pounds we promised him, so that's going to give us even more money than we expected.
Yeah. So this is really the end of the season. Walter and Skylar have a conversation about what he would do if he got caught breaking the law, which is interesting, but we'll bypass that. For this scene is legendary in the show, if you ask me. They go and meet Tuco. He's obviously pleased. They, like you said, about 4.5 pounds of meth. He goes, "We're gonna make a lot of money together." And then he goes, "It's blue." He goes, "Yeah," but Jesse goes, "Yeah, but it's the bomb." So Tuco takes a bump and he goes, "Yeah. That's what I'm talking. As we stated last week, this guy is unhinged when he's sober. When he is on meth, this guy's psychotic, and his rage. So they make him a lot of money. See you next week. They're about to go. And one of his henchmen says, "Don't forget who you're working for." And it's kind of a throwaway comment. And Tuco's like, "What'd you mean by that?" And it starts this dialogue between him and the henchman.
Yeah, and he's, like you said, he's just unhinged after this. He's like, "Well, are you calling them stupid?" And the henchman's, "No, I'm just making sure they know." And Tuco goes, "Well, if you're not calling them stupid, are you calling me stupid?" And no, and then he's just like, "Well, no, Tuco." And then Heisenberg, trying to be a good guy, Heisenberg / Walter. Everybody just relax. And Tuco, being Tuco, makes fun of him. And he's like, he's like, "Yeah, Heisenberg says relax."
Yeah.
And this guy proceeds to leave a beating on his henchmen. And I don't know if it's to prove a point, or I think it's just because he's literally insane.
I don't even think it's to scare them. I think it's literally because he's insane.
And he just, something he didn't like, something that was, bothered him, and he was just going to deal with it then and there.
Right. So he beat, like you said, he beats him senseless. He literally beats him within an inch of his life. And then he gets his fist all bloody and says, look at that to Walter and Jesse. They're just like, ugh. And the big fella,
they're shocked.
Yeah. They're
both sitting there in shock. Their mouths are like to the floor. Like, what did we just watch?
Yeah. And so the big fella, Gonzo, has to drag the body into the trunk. Tuco gets back, and the season ends just by the two of them looking at each other like, what the hell did we just get ourselves into?
Yeah, you're right. And it's legendary stuff. And I mean, it is a great end to an episode, because I mean, it lives so much to be asked for in a second, in the second upcoming season. So I agree, it's a great ending.
Yeah, and you think, like, it was a 7-episode season, but this show is not guaranteed to be a hit that it was, like the cult hit that it was. They had a 7-episode order, probably thinking, who knows if we get a second season. The Office was the same length. Just for random facts, it was the same 7-episode order. And a lot of these shows were just, okay, make 7 episodes, hope it's good, and we hope for the best, and we get renewed.
Yeah, and clearly there was a high demand. I think there was a very high demand, especially with what it ended, and people wanted to know, what's going on, this relationship, and of course everything else with, Walter's personal life, because there's so much going on there as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, him and his wife have a terrible relationship. Him and his son don't exactly have a great relationship. You see the wife shoplifting. I mean, there's a lot of interesting plot lines, and it was only 7 episodes. So that just tells you how good the show really was.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to season 2. So you think this episode ended, I believe it ended in June, and this next season only aired in November. So that's a long wait for these fans to get going. This episode is called 737, and it starts with some foreshadowing. It starts in black and white, and we see it's clearly Walter's backyard, but something's happened. There's debris. There's we see the pool. An eyeball is floating in the pool, and then a pink teddy bear that's kind of been ripped in half, all dirty, is floating in the pool. And we have no context or reasoning as to why their house is the way it is.
Yeah, and I believe they do this throughout most of the episodes in the season, right, Dougie? And it kind of builds up, and I love it. Like it's when you find out what happens. I mean, it's obviously just shocking, and it's just wild, to be honest. So yeah, it's a good little. You're just kind of wondering like what actually happened, and then it kind of gets right into what goes on. What I love about jumping from these 2 seasons, often in a show, maybe when it jumps into a new season, there's always that gap, and you're always wondering what's happened. Maybe they don't do anything. Maybe something big happened. Well, what do? They go right from the junkyard, and they stay back in the junkyard for the start of the second season.
Agreed. They show the scene again, which I think is an awesome way to do it. Show that again. It gets people fired up. It gets them back into that mindset, which you see shows, they'll show what happened in the previous season, which is good. But I think this is way more effective because it's like, okay, well, this is what happened. Like, this crazy bastard did this. So we see it again where Tuco beats the hell out of him. Gonzo drags his body, and we go to Jesse's car, and you can see he's clearly terrified. And Walter has a different mindset. And this is Heisenberg. He goes, $737. $737,000 for my family. That's what I need. 10 more cooks. We can do it. 10 more weeks, then I'm out. And it's not about, okay, maybe we'll die tomorrow. It's I need to make this amount of money, then we can break away from Tuco. Jesse's like, let's get the hell out of here now. This guy's trouble.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 completely different mindsets on what just happened in front of them, and clearly one is more shooketh than the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the scene where Walter just kind of quickly breaks down what he's going to need financially to set his family up for the future. Ed, I won't go into every single little detail, but it's pretty darn detailed, from his, everything from his wife spending month to month to his kids' college. Yep. So everything. So no, it was good. And then he's, that from there, he's got a goal. He's got a set mind. I got to make this much money to set my family up, and then I can walk away and be comfortable with that. Yep. But before he can even probably wrap up his numbers, Tuco returns, and it's not good.
Yeah, so Jesse's driving out of the junkyard, and you see Tuco's car come flying, does a big stop, and they drag this body out of the car, and he says, Tuco basically says, do something. And he's like, he's having a heart attack or a seizure of some kind. And Walter's like, well, I can't do anything. Like, he needs a hospital. I can't do anything for him. And then he says to Walter, do this, the CPR. And Walter starts compressions. It's not doing anything. He tells Jesse to pump air into his lungs. But before he can, we see that he's basically gagged up, fluid, and he's dead.
Yeah. So essentially they witnessed a murder, because I mean, it's clear like who did it. But yeah, and then you see Gonzo, he must have some kind of a hurt. He's like, well, Tuco, we can't leave him here. Tuco's like, no, dump the body and get rid of him. Like,
and Gonzo's
like, gotta get rid of this.
He had that opinion for about half a second, and Tuco's like,
yeah,
Lonzo, dump it. And he goes, okay, yeah, okay. So he
Okay, boss.
drags the body. He's dragging the body to the junkyard. He tries to put it in a trunk, won't open. So he throws it underneath these cars, about 3 stacked vehicles. But as he's putting it under, he grabs a car to get leverage to stand up, and we see it shift. So these cars are on there not very evenly, and that's a little foreshadowing to the end of the episode what happens. But that's just a little, obviously in the real time you have no clue, but this is a little sign of things to come.
Yeah, and as this is happening, Walter and Jesse are kind of slowly backing away from Tuco, who's got who they have their back. He has a back against them, and Tuco's like, "Did I say you guys could leave?" Basically, and they're like, "Oh, well, just didn't think that you needed us here." And he kind of walks up to them, and kind of walks right in between them, and he goes, "You're done."
Mm-hmm.
And then they both kind of fuck. They slowly walk away, but as Jesse turns around, Tuco kind of gives him a shove, like to the ground, and it's more like I'm going to intimidate you because I can't move, in my opinion.
Yeah, he just saw him murder somebody. He's aware enough of that, and he goes, "You're not selling me down the road here. If you're gonna be a loose end, I'll take care of you," basically. And they leave the junkyard, and we then go to Jesse, and he's worried big time. And what does he do? He goes to the doghouse, which is this little fast food restaurant, and he's there eating some nachos. And this guy, he lifts up his little his meal or whatever. There's a stack of cash underneath. The guy grabs it. He comes back with a bag. In it is a gun. And so Jesse has purchased a gun for protection.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, I guess, in a second. Does anything happen between them and his conversation with Walter, or
so
with the family?
Yeah, so we see when Walter gets home, he gets home. Skylar's like, "Walter, are you there?" And he's just staring at the TV, and he's not answering Skylar. It's kind of a weird scene, and she basically has to go shake him, and he's just terror. He's like shook, and he goes, "Oh, hi," and they start talking, and they start talking. And then he goes to the kitchen. She's got this kind of like a mask on, like one of those green face paint type mask, and he starts to get frisky again. He tries to have sex with her in the kitchen before she shuts it down, and she's pretty angry with him.
It's pretty uncomfortable because it's obviously, don't want to say it's like a rape scene, because she's somewhat into it, but clearly not, because of the fact that she's standing up, she's pregnant, and she's also mentions that Walter Jr. is, he's going to walk in at any moment. So she kind of gives him the old, what the hell are you doing? And Walter he doesn't have an answer for it. And you can clearly see that his mind is definitely in another place.
Yeah.
At this scene, like it's almost like his alter ego kind of took over too much, and that he kind of didn't have control on what he was doing. So, he kind of goes and sits down, and he's kind of breaking down. And, Skylar's like, I don't know what's going on with you. Like, you're hardly ever home. Like, I just can't keep up with you lately. Like, you're just changed so much. And, before he can kind of break down or say what happened or what kind of day he's had, Walter Jr. comes in to kind of break up the scene.
Yeah. And they're clearly getting further and further apart, and Walter just doesn't share anything, like you said. And so the next day he leaves the house, go figure, she's home alone. Yeah. And he goes to Jesse's, and Jesse's plan is, excuse me. There's To the Point mascot letting us know that she's still in charge. Jesse, so paranoid, and he says that the next meet was just shoot him. And Walter's like, "What?" He goes, "We're going to shoot him." And he says, "Okay, show me how to put in a bullet in that gun." And Jesse can't. So he's like, "You can't shoot somebody if you don't even know how to load the weapon." And he also points out that, at every meet, there's at least 2 people there. There's one dead guy now, but there'll probably be another new one. Gonzo is always there. And so he says, we're not killing Tuco. He's providing us money right now. Let's deal with that later. And so, and he has this opinion until one night driving home, Walter he has a little visitor at his house.
Yeah. So essentially, what happens here, Walter, is he makes his way home late at night, and of course, you see the Suburban that was driving that met at the junkyards. And I love this scene too, Juggy. It's all darkness within the Suburban, but you can just see the cigarette being lit, and you can see the bud of the cigarette just come alive. And I thought that was a really cool scene. I forgot all about that, but it's just a cool looking, like, scary moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Walter's frightened. He's shook. He's he's like, how do they know me? Because at this point in time, Jesse has revealed that he is Jesse, and they probably know he's Jesse Pinkman. But to Tuco, Walter is Heisenberg. He doesn't know anything else about him. He's not supposed to, but clearly he's found him and he knows where he lives.
Yeah. So he, like you said, he's so scared. We see that whole night, he basically looks out the window the whole night. Skylar's like, "Did you ever come to bed?" He goes, "Yeah, I was there. I just had some stomach problems." She knows he's lying. He even hears the phone ring and he jumps. Like, he's so petrified. And it turns out to be Marie calling. Skylar is not answering her phone calls because of the shoplifting. But we learn Hank and Marie have a conversation. We learn that Marie is is seeing a therapist, Dave, about her shoplifting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just funny because it's clear that Hank is pushing her to get this done and to go see him, and Maria is kind of like, oh, like she's mixing up her days on purpose, which is been pretty clear. She's like, oh no, like we're going to try that new restaurant tonight. We're not going. I'm not going to my appointment. And Hank's like, well, I think you should. And she just basically goes, yeah, okay, and just drives away. But when she drives away, she runs over this kid's electric car, and she doesn't. It's not like it's an accident. She swerves and hits it
purposefully. Yeah.
And I love the scene. Yeah, and I love this scene where Hank walks up to him and he's just like, sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
She's just, and this kid's just like shocked. Like, he's like, what the hell just happened to my toy?
He's
essentially.
He's looking at it like,
and Hank just pulls out the wad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hank's answer is just like, yeah, exactly. He pulls out the stack, gives him his money, and then kind of leaves. But yeah, no, that's right. I mean, we find out that later in this episode, Hank goes to Skylar and says, I really appreciate it if you answered her calls and made contact with her.
Yeah.
And Skylar's like, no, like I'm drawing a line here. Like, she embarrassed me and she almost got me arrested. I'm not doing it. And Skylar tells him. Skylar says, Marie's a shoplifter. And Hank's he's got this look on his face where it's not shocked. It's just kind of like, yeah. He's like, I know yeah. And then Skylar's like, and Hank's like, we've been working on it, And he basically goes, Marie needs a lot of support, and Skylar kind of snaps at Hank.
Yeah. This was, I think, great acting by Anna Gunn in this scene, because she just goes, "Oh, really? My bitch, spoiled brat, and ex-sister needs support, but I'm the pregnant woman, almost 40. I have a husband who doesn't come home, doesn't tell me anything, a son who does the same thing and has a ton of sass, treats me like shit, and I have contractions every day, and yet no, my sister needs the support. Yeah, sure, Hank, let's support Marie." And he's just like standing there like, what?
Gives her this awkward hug where he's like,
Skylar starts crying, and he puts his arms around her. He goes, "Do you want me to look at that closet for you?" Or the water heater for you?
Yeah, and you're right. It's Hank's like, it's just Hank's way of doing things. He's not a
touchy-feely.
I would say, yeah, he's not in with his feelings, we'll say.
Yeah.
So it's just a funny scene in that sense. But I mean, she's in the right here. Like, Marie, you don't really know what's going on with her. You don't know why she's doing this. She's just
Mhm.
kind of doing it. But it's clear that Hank at least is trying to get her help for it.
Right. Shoplifting is Marie's Breaking Bad, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's probably another little subliminal storyline that the show wanted to add, just to have another member of the family, breaking, the line, so to speak. So Walter's on board with killing Tuco now. He goes, no, like he knows where my family lives. Like I got to take care of this, but they're not going to shoot him because that's neither of them. That's too risky. There's too many guys there. They'll be dead. And he says, we're going to use ricin. And it's a very, very toxic poison that it doesn't kill you right away. It takes about 2-3 days in your system, and it looks like you'll die of natural causes. And it's not the first or the last time we'll see this. Not the last time we'll see ricin used in this show, but it's basically used from beans. And they say we're going to break it down, and they say we'll put it in a thing of meth. So when he takes a hit, he just thinks it's normal. 3 days, he's dead. Doesn't show it in the autopsy. We're scot-free, and Tuco, our problem is gone forever.
Yeah, if only things were ever that easy for old Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, but right. They're not.
So yeah, they're in the basement, kind of going through this plan, and Hank calls Walt, and Walt's like, yeah, just small talk, whatever. Like when you get home, I'm gonna apologize in advance because Skylar's really pissed off, and it's partly my fault. And he goes, yeah, that's fine. And he goes, oh, wait 1 second. I'm at this scene. I'm at this crime scene. You got to see this. And Walt's like, no. And he goes, no. Just wait. I'm going to send it to you. And Walter gets a picture on his phone with the dead henchman of Tuco and the dead Gonzo next to the vehicle that his body was stashed under. And Walter and Jesse both are in a complete panic.
Yeah. And they both say, Tuco's offing his witnesses. So Gonzo was there, he's been off, and he's going to come after us next. And that's their mentality.
Which is fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. And they go that, you see them both scrambling. They both fight for the gun. They're like, oh, I need the gun. And Walter's like, no, you just leave the country, or leave the city, sorry.
Yeah.
And just get out of here. And I'll take the gun, and I'll
gotta get home to my family. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got to get home and make sure my family's okay.
So as they're leaving, it pivots back to Hank and Gomi, and they're at the scene, and they go. Gonzo is kind of laid up against the vehicle, and the doctors kind of rip him off, and he's sort of the corner, and his arm is completely stuck in the vehicle. So like, what the hell? And we learn that it wasn't Tuco that killed Gonzo, but the vehicles that were shifting when you put the body under there, he got caught trying to move the body again. And he got stuck. His arm got stuck in a vehicle, and he bled out. And it was nothing to do with Tuco, but it does look like Tuco did it. And they're clearly panicking, thinking they're next, but Tuco had nothing to do with this murder.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no blood coming. There's no gunshots from the back of Gonzo. There's only blood coming in front of him. So you're right. I mean, his arm was tore off. You could see it. They're laughing at it basically because they're like, this idiot went here to get this body, and he basically got himself killed. Like this got to be the worst criminal that we've ever seen. Besides Jesse and
Walter.
Jesse and Walter trying to not rolling that bin out of the plant. But you're right. So they're in a state of panic, and Walter goes home. He's got the gun. He's yelling for his family, and no one answers. And he gets to the bathroom, and there's Skylar at the bath.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like, oh, where were you now? What are you doing now? And he's like, oh, where's Walter? Well, where's Walter Jr.? And she goes, well, he's at his friend's house. He's at Lewis's house, if he's even there. And Skylar's like, okay, and starts talking again. And then she looks, and Walter's not even there. He's at the window checking to see if anyone's outside. Oh no, sorry. He's
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 getting
he's
the
getting his
money.
money. He's
Yeah,
getting his money and he's putting it in. He's in full. I've got to get out of here mode, and he's going to
yeah,
get his family out of there somehow.
yeah. He's in full SOS.
Yeah, and he throws all the money and the gun in this
Diaper, the diaper
dumpster. This
box.
yeah, this little dumpster. Diaper diaper box. And then who but Shirley pulls out her from the house but Jesse.
Yeah, so he's looking at the Jesse in the front, just sitting there, like he's like, what the hell? Like he knows he's not allowed to go there with his wife home, and he goes outside and he goes, what the hell are you doing here? And then who pops up in the back seat? Tuco with a gun, and he says, get in. Walter gets in. They drive away. End of scene. And we don't know what's going to happen, but we know Tuco is basically taking Walter and Jesse hostage, and they're going somewhere. But it can't be good.
Yeah, the most unpredictable man in the world has them at guns, has them at the tip of their guns. So it's not good. But this show doesn't have many cliffhangers, but this is a major one clearly. And if you think about people watching this for the first time, Juggy, how excited would you be knowing that for one, you got the show back, but now essentially your main characters are in the most danger they've probably ever been since being in the show.
Right. And at the time, there was all kind of rumors that Aaron Paul was going to get killed off. And we won't say anything that happens in the next episode, but Aaron Paul was only supposed to be in about 3 or 4 episodes of the show. And it got changed on the fly.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so he was supposed to be killed in season 1.
I see.
And so obviously we got Tuco, we got these two. We don't know where they're going. Skylar's in the tub thinking, what the hell just happened to Walt?
My husband just go.
Yeah, and the next episode is going to be a good one, and I think because we're in season 2, we'll go right into episodes 2 and 3 next week, just because I think it's such a good season, number 1. And next week's episode 2 is phenomenal episode. You meet Hector Salamanca as well, who plays a big role in the show by saying no words. But we meet him. We see it's a crazy episode, and shapes a lot of the narrative of the rest of the season.
Yeah, and for people watching it for the first time or just listening in here to the point, the rest of the seasons are about 16 episodes long. So they're a much lengthier season. It's like we mentioned before. A lot of shows would go ahead with a shorter beginning season just to see if it's that way they're not spending a whole bunch of money on a dud. And that's why it was like a half a season per se for that first one. But from here on out, they're lengthier. And we'll go through it here. You can hear it first on To the Point. Maybe break up a couple weeks, maybe here and there, just so you're not only hearing Breaking Bad. But for the most part, it's exciting, and looking forward to a second season because it's a good one.
Yeah, no, very good one. And next week will be fun because that episode is high drama, and a lot happens in Mexico. But there's a little spoiler. What do you got on the go the rest of your week? What do you got planned heading into May 2 for?
No major plans. Just gonna get out for a little golf when it's not raining. I think we're supposed to get a little shower here on Saturday. So for all the people out there who's just sitting home Saturday, I got nothing to do. Turn on season 1 of Breaking Bad. Even if you've listened and we kind of spoiled it for you, the acting itself and the writing is it's good enough that you'll want to watch it. I've had people who've rewatched season 1 just solely on the fact that they heard we were doing this and we're doing a recap of this, and they like, yeah, like I want to go back and rewatch it just to see. And so if you're sitting at home on what?
I love hearing that. That's great.
Oh yeah, if you're sitting home on a rainy Saturday with nothing to do, just click on a couple episodes and see what happens.
Because you'll be binging it before you know it. Like
you'll be caught up with us on the second season probably by Tuesday if you start watching it on Saturday.
Yeah,
it's just that good.
100%.
No, other than that, the old Leafs, like you said, they're coming back here on Thursday. They're gonna play Thursday, Saturday, and Tuesday, I believe,
Monday,
or Monday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So what gonna happen there? I know all your listeners, they're just all Leafs fans and they just love it. So to all you guys out there, I'm just saying that it's gonna be a good series, but I feel like Blues coming out on top. So we'll see.
Yeah. Who do you got? Wizards Celtics tonight. About a 7-8 playing game. Celtics going to get that 7 seed tonight, or will they have to play Charlotte or Indiana?
I think it's gonna be a tight game, but I think the green is gonna come out on top on this one.
I think it's better. I think they'll win too, but it's better if they lose because then they play Philly. They match up so much better against Philly. If they play Brooklyn, it's over.
Oh, I don't have much hope for either of those matchups, but yeah, I guess if you're trying to pick and choose, maybe old Brad Stevens pulls Jason Tatum out a little early. Maybe he does something greasy to make them lose, and they'll get a better matchup in the first round. Who knows? I'm not doubting it, but we need some key players to step up and actually defend. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, like you said, you got the Stanley Cup playoffs full force. I think every game's been really good so far. I've been so impressed with the playoffs. 3 games tonight. We'll have like 4 games every night starting tomorrow when Canada gets going. And you got the NBA playoffs with the play-in tonight, and the real playoffs start Saturday. You got the PGA Championship this weekend. It's
gonna be eventful.
Loaded sports. It's gonna be one for the books, that's for sure.
Yeah. Any other plans other than sitting at the scoop? Anything else going on, or is it just
probably hit the treadmill at some point?
You tend to do that once or twice, I think.
Yeah, I'm probably going the treadmill. Probably make some dinner.
Use the bathroom maybe.
Probably
throw that in there.
Movements every now and then. But yeah, watch some sports. Probably throw in some UFC in there.
Who do you got, Pete? So we'll call. I know it's a little early, and you might do a pod on it, but PGA. Do you got a favorite? Do you got anyone you're liking moving into this? Does Rory catch your eye, or is he gonna catch your eye?
The easy pick is Rory, because he won a couple weeks ago. He's won at this tournament before. I'm gonna pick Jordan Spieth.
Okay.
He's playing some really consistent golf going into this. I think he's confident. I also think he just found that winning touch. I think he'll be able to find it again. So he'd be my pick. Long shot. A guy who would be in contention probably, but won't win because he chokes away every time he should win is Sam Burns. Saw that again last weekend where had the tournament and he just Greg Normand it on Sunday. But yeah, I think Spieth's probably my pick right now.
Okay, I love it. And what about we talked about one plan, but let's be honest, the real plan here. Curry versus LeBron.
Yeah.
You got?
I got the Lakers pretty handsomely.
Oh, okay. So you think that you think some are calling the MVP and Steph Curry isn't gonna pull off a 60-point game? You think it's got in the bag?
No, the Lakers defend him really well. They're one of the teams that really can shut him down. And if he doesn't score well, their second option is like Jordan Poole.
Got old Wiseman in there.
Wiggins, Wiseman is unavailable, so like gets thin. So I think I think the Lakers get by and they'll play Phoenix, poor bastards, in the first round. You get the second seed, you have to play the defending champs, which is I feel bad for them.
Yeah, you work your ass off all season just to absolutely get worked in the first round. But who knows? I'm all on Phoenix this year. I know, but from be reasonable, Boston's probably not going to go too far. So I picked another team, and I'm on the Phoenix train. I got CP3, D Brook, and the boys. I think they're going to rally. I think they're going to beat the Lakers if they play them.
Wow.
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my prediction from here to the point. So if it happens, you heard it here first.
Yeah, we heard it here first. Phoenix Suns will defeat the Los Angeles Lakers in 7 games or less. But no, great show tonight, Shay. We'll be back next week and enjoy the golf and the weekend of sports upcoming.
You as well, my friend.
Everybody, thanks for listening to us. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the nice weather when we get it. We'll be back next week and we'll talk soon.